Hey guys, Aiden here from Reptiles. Do you guys know how to provide your reptiles with the best heat? We're going to go over 3 of the most popular ways to provide reptiles with heat. You're going to want to check this one out. Reptiles need temperature gradients, which means that they need a hot side and a cooled side of the cage. The hot side for retics needs to be between 87 to 88 degrees. Cooled side, more around like 77, 78. This helps the animal thermoregulate. By having a cooled side and a warm side, the animal can choose whatever temperature it wants to be for its activity level. If you can't hit the right temperatures and heat requirements for your reptiles, then you're going to end up spending a lot more money on vet bills than you will to buy any of these heating elements. Your animals will tell you if your husbandry is off or if your temperatures are off, because if your animal's always sitting on the hot side or your animal's always sitting on the cold side of the cage, then that's telling you something that your temps might need adjusted a little bit. So it's always important to monitor them. A good keeper always remains a student of their animals. There are 3 types of heating elements that you can use to provide heat for your reptile. First, there are heat tape and heat pads. Now these work good for long, low cages. And there are heat bulbs and heat emitters and radiant heat panels. Now those all work good for tall cages. So heat tape and heat pads are basically the same thing. They both provide heat the same way. Heat tape is usually used when you have a whole bunch of animals and you need to provide heat to a lot of them, like in racks. Breeders use heat tape often. Heat pads are usually directed towards hobbyists, and they're used on standard size aquariums that you usually find in a pet store. Both of these types of heating elements need thermostats to control the output. They will get really hot without thermostats and just end up killing your animals, and no one wants that. So it's very important to use a thermostat when you're using heat pads and heat tape. You could connect it to the sides or the back. So if you connect it to the back, then it provides more of a gentle gradient of heat into the cage, and you need some kind of insulation to keep that heat in there. If you provide it on the bottom of the cage, then the animal is basically sitting on the heat source and it gives them belly heat. To know how warm something's getting, obviously you need a thermometer, and there's 2 different types. The first type is something that just kind of sticks in the cage. There's very simple ones like this one, and there's ones that you could buy at the pet store too, and there's even Bluetooth ones that are very advanced, but these are kind of useless for measuring the temperature gradient in your reptile's cage. It just takes the air temperature. It doesn't really measure the surfaces that the animal is using. To measure the surface temperature in the cage, you're gonna need one of these, a temp gun. It's point and shoot, and it measures the surface temperature in the cage. This helps you because you can read the cooled side, the hot side of the cage, the actual snake, the wall. You can get accurate temperatures for the whole entire cage, which is really nice. You can buy one of these online. I'll link it down below. Another type of heating elements are heat bulbs and heat emitters. Now these both go into a fixture. Heat bulbs will provide light for your animals as well as heat. Heat emitters do not provide any light for your animal, but they do provide heat. For heat bulbs and heat emitters, you do not need a thermostat, but you do need to make sure you get the right wattage for whatever temperature your cage needs to be. Sometimes you have to play around with it and try multiple different wattages until you get the correct temperature that you need. So keep your receipts, because you might have to experiment with it a little bit and try out different types of lights, because there's so many different kinds. If you have a small pet store size cage, then these little Zillow lights work the best. I absolutely love them. It's amazing how efficient they are for how tiny they are. We're not sponsored by anyone in this video, but we will link some of our favorite products down below. So one of the dangers with lights and heat emitters is that if your animal's able to get real close to it, they will get burnt. So it's best to keep the light or heat emitter outside of the cage, or if it is inside the cage, make sure there's a cage around the light or heat emitter so the animal cannot touch it or get too close to it. The third way to provide heating for your reptiles is by using a radiant heat panel. Now these are cool because they don't get too hot to the touch. So you put them inside of the cage and it provides a nice basking area for your animal without any light. Unlike a lamp where the bulb will get really hot and burn you, these ones you can touch it and it won't burn you. So it's safe for your animal to touch it too. So you can buy them and buy one that's the right size for your cage. I would call Pro Products and they will help you figure out the perfect radiant heat panel for your cage. If you want the best control of radiant heat panels, you want to buy them big and run them on a thermostat. You want to use the same thermostats that you would use for heat tape and heat pads. That's the 3 main ways on how to heat your reptiles. If you have any more questions, let us know down in the comments. And if you want to see more videos on how to care for your snakes or your reptiles, check out this video up here. I'm sure you'll enjoy it.